You can find the video version of this episode at mountaintoppodcast.com/YouTube.
Live from the mist-enshrouded mountaintop fortress that is X and Y Communications headquarters, you're listening to the world-famous Mountaintop Podcast. And now, here's your host, Scott McKay.
All right, everybody, how's it going? This is your main man, Scott McKay.
And I'm Emily McKay.
And we're coming at you with another episode of The Big Show. Today, we're going to talk about an uncomfortable topic, but it's one we've never covered before. And I know it's one that a lot of couples face. Emily, what if you're disappointed?
Ooh, that would be bad. That would be a disappointment.
Well, yeah. Now, the first thing that I want to mention, though, is it really possible to go through an entire long-term relationship without any disappointment whatsoever? Should we be that Pollyannishly optimistic at the front end of a relationship as if, this is going to be the honeymoon period and nobody could do any wrong forever and ever, de los siglos a los siglos, and we're all going to just be perfect? Or is that just setting ourselves up for failure? I mean, that's probably the first question to ask.
Well, I don't know. I think every girl dreams of that happy ever after. And everyone's searching for that and expecting to accomplish that. And then reality hits.
And what's the reality?
The reality is you can't maintain it.
Reality is underwear on the bathroom floor.
And toothpaste open and yes.
Make me a sandwich.
Dirty dishes.
And speaking of the
farts.
Especially the farts. Although the women aren't immune from the farts.
What are you talking about? Speak for yourself.
Oh, I remember when I was a kid, my friends and I were talking about this. Like, do women fart?
No.
Like, when you have a girlfriend someday, will she actually fart? And we were thinking, gosh, that sounds incredibly impossible. And then certainly, like you just said, reality hits. And you realize, wow, even if they do fart, it doesn't smell like a powder puff or something. It's still nasty.
Oh, yes.
The little splatters on the mirror, speaking of toothpaste, from like brushing your teeth and like flinging it everywhere. That's a minor disappointment. I don't know if that would really even count as a disappointment in the grand scheme of being in a relationship, though, because everybody's going to be human and everybody's going to have human frailties and we're all going to make a mistake here and there. That doesn't count as a disappointment, does it?
Well, if you're disappointed on the bigger scope of things, the little things are going to really eat at you.
Isn't that something? Talk more about that because it's true.
Well, if you're disappointed, maybe your guy's cheating on you or maybe he's not
and you're
doing
still there?
it. Even if he's faithful, I mean, maybe he's, missing the mark in some grandiose way that you wanted him to be, doing it perfect. So that all the little things seems to bother you. Maybe he's, eating a sandwich really loud and noisy. Yeah.
Didn't Michelle Obama just recently say that's just what bothers the bejeebers out of her about Barack?
I must have missed that one.
Yeah, that's what she said. It meant like viral because it's like, oh my gosh, they have something that pisses them off about each other.
They're normal. They're
exactly.
human.
Yeah, that's normal.
It's so maybe they left their shoes, in the walkway rather than putting them, on the little shelf that they belong on. It could be anything, but it's all those little things really become magnified.
Right. I mean, I can ship myself out if I don't like who I'm married to, I guess. But I can also trip over the shoes if they're left in the hallway while I'm scrambling to the bathroom in the middle of the night or something.
Break an arm.
Yeah, well, that would be really bad. That would be especially disappointing. The medical bills would be disappointing.
I know, right?
But, you're on to something. When there's a major disappointment, those little minor irritations, those microaggressions, right? They become macroaggressions. They become amplified. Like, you did this again, because you're in the mood to pile on someone who's disappointing you.
And it's easier to avoid the real problem because heaven forbid we actually look at the real problem because then we have to fix it. So it's easier to look at the small problems. We are human.
When you look at the real problem.
Whatever. See, I knew I was in trouble when we started doing this.
Yes, because I'm funny. And so she married me and she knew she was in trouble. That's the way it is. Yeah, this is a fraught conversation. I wonder how many dating relationship advice couples would dare to do this.
That's a scary topic.
Because imagine this. Let's say you're a couple and you're doing dating and relationship advice, and you're trying to put up this nice front that everything's fine, with the fam, you're all good, but really decently enough, like all other people, you're having a little bit of an issue there. There's a little bit of a disappointment, but then you get on a podcast like this and people can just feel that tension. You can cut it with a knife that these two, there's something up with these two, and there really is a major disappointment, and it's getting kind of ugly. As a matter of fact, I spoke at a conference one time.
Okay.
And they had a couple up there who were a dating advice couple. And I had never met them before. They were both very nice, but I was sitting next to a fellow dating coach, and I whispered in her ear while they were up there doing their thing, something's up with those two. Somebody cheated on somebody, and it's never been really healed. And she just kind of looked at me and went, oh my gosh, you're absolutely right. That's exactly it. Because you could just feel
The tension.
distance. Yeah, tension and distance while they were trying to kind of be a couple doing their thing.
Oh, it's painful.
So yeah, they weren't even talking about that. They were talking about, this wonderful, happy relationship you can have. And yet, here we are, where angels fear to tread once again, like we typically do, talking about being disappointed in a relationship.
Well, that would be more disappointing to have to go up there and pretend to be happy whenever you're in a disappointing relationship.
Yeah, it's like you're not admitting to the disappointment.
Well, putting on a display of happiness and having to maintain it has to be stressful.
Right, exactly.
And I bet you a lot of couples do this for the sake of the family, extended family. We can't let mom and dad or in-laws know that we're suffering, or we have, for the children, we have to put on, this pretty little bow on it, and maybe for the coworkers or the friends, people they pretend that
They
got
play
this-
fake their life.
they play with the Facebook reel.
Yeah, the Facebook reel. Everything is amazing, but not really. If you got to know us, well, actually, we're not going to invite you over to the house. You're not going to come over for dinner, because if we did that, Irma Gerd, you'd see everything that's wrong. Actually, I remember one time I talked to a guy, and he went and visited a couple.
Mm-hmm.
He was a part of our organization that was not for profit, and we worked with kids, and he went and visited the couple, and we were working with their kids, and they were donors. So they were pretty wealthy, and everything was fine at dinner. They were so happy. Everything was perfectly cooked, all perfectly clean, and, the table settings and everything. And it was, please pass the Grey Poupon, 2 weeks later, one of them filed for divorce.
Oh my goodness.
Talk about cray. I mean, under the surface, something was really, really broken, but they had the wherewithal to make sure everything just looked fantastic to the outside world.
Mm.
A lot of couples do that. That's not very honest, and it's not going to heal the problem if you don't even acknowledge it.
Well, I think it's embarrassing to admit to the world that maybe it feels like we failed, or maybe it's embarrassing to us because we feel if we admit it to ourselves, we feel like we failed. We've let down that dream.
Yeah, it's humiliating.
And there's a grieving
Right.
process too. Because if you really wanted that perfect pictured life, which is, by the way, impossible,
Well, we've already gotten to that.
right?
Yeah.
And then you finally have to admit to it and either settle into reality and go, okay, you know what? Let's look at what really is working here. What's great about what I got? Maybe it's not as disappointing as I think it is. Maybe my perspective in it is wrong.
Yeah, maybe we're too idealistic. We're expecting everything to be perfect. That sounds like an earmark of immaturity to me. Like when couples get married really early.
Maybe that's why there's a 7-year itch.
A 7-year itch. Is that 7-year itch built around disappointment or boredom?
Or all the above. Well,
Or I
boredom
want
will
some
be disappointing. Yeah.
All of that. No, not me. You asked like, yeah, really? No, I'm almost 20 years in.
Yes,
No,
that's right.
and I'm not itchy yet. No
Mm-mm.
eczema, no psoriasis, no nothing.
Well, I'm thinking the 7-year urge, people get married in their 20s, right? They're still immature, they're growing and figuring things out. And we still haven't really figured out the world for that matter.
Yeah.
That there is no such thing as the perfect happily ever after, but we are still fantasizing that it does. And 7 years into it, it's like, okay, where are we now? Where did I want to be and where did I land? And wait, the idealistic picture isn't quite there, and then all the little things start to bother us. And I'm thinking maybe that's where the 7-year itch starts to happen
Well, I mean, it's
as
fictional.
as they start to mature.
Yeah, I mean, it's a nice Marilyn Monroe movie. I don't know if everybody is going to, by nature, have a 7-year itch. Maybe it's kind of like,
6, 7, 8 years. It's there. I think it really does exist for most couples.
yeah, probably to some degree. Maybe here's why. Maybe it's because after 7 or 8 years of life, all of us evolve.
Yes.
We're never going to be who we were 7 or 8 years ago. 5 years ago, maybe. 7 years ago, probably not. If it gets to the 10 or 12-year, dozen-year itch, yeah, you know what? You're not who you were 10 or 12 years ago. You've evolved in some way.
We're different.
Oh, yeah. I think we've evolved for the better.
Oh, yeah. And together, for
Yeah.
that matter.
Sure.
People grow. They can either grow apart or they make the effort to do what they can to grow together.
Yeah, we were both pretty mature and we'd been kicked around the block some when we met each other. So I think we didn't have idealistic, unrealistic expectations for each other. We just met each other and got along great and liked each other a lot and we're best friends. And here we still are.
Maybe that's why we didn't get the 7-year itch because, well, we didn't have the idealistic ideas there.
Well, actually, I was divorced after 7 years. But that was probably not because of an itch. That was because of some full-blown, some kind of other illness other than a mere itch.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that was like a 7-year, complete total inflammation.
There you go.
Yeah,
That's a
something
good
like that.
description.
But enough about me. I think when it comes to people feeling disappointed, it all started when they met each other and they settled for each other. I think it would be hard to be disappointed in someone you chose. If it got to the point where, hey, my biological clock's ticking, she says, and he's like, yeah, they're all pressuring me on my side of the family to get married, and I guess I better settle down, etc. When you settle down, you settle for someone, and when people get married out of convenience, or God forbid, a green card's in there somewhere, or because they just don't have a whole lot of options, which we talk about constantly around here, then you know what? They're setting themselves up for this disappointment because, frankly, they're disappointed going into this thing and they're just not honest with each other about it yet.
No, that would be devastating.
It is devastating.
Yeah. But I think besides just that type of disappointment, I think sometimes people go into it and they get into a rut,
Yep.
the daily routines.
Not to be confused with going into heat.
Well, they get to where you wake up, you go to work, you do this, you do that, and nothing changes. It just becomes, and then you kind of lose the excitement. And when you lose the excitement, disappointment starts to sit in.
Yeah, you need to keep your marriage spicy, don't you? They always say you have to spice up your relationship. You got to date your wife, keep going on adventures, which is something you and I have been pretty good at with the family, right? Even as we start having more children, the adventures keep going.
Yes.
You hit on something earlier,
What's that?
which was being each other's best friend. It's hard to be disappointed in your best friend. You can be disappointed in their actions.
Mm-hmm.
And, when we're talking about infidelity or abusive behavior, I don't think that's disappointment. I think that's brokenness and that's trauma and that's got to be healed. What I'm talking about here for the purposes of this show, what we're talking about in this show,
Right.
is you're in a relationship and it just didn't pan out the way you wanted it to. No one's hurting each other. No one's being abusive. No one's cheating. It's just, you know what? I'm starting to press my nose against the glass looking at the greener pastures out there.
Right. Well, some people experience trauma within the relationship. Maybe they lost a child.
Yeah.
Maybe they've lost, a career or a job or health.
Yeah.
That could, oh my gosh, health could definitely lead to huge disappointments.
Well, I
then
think
you don't have all the adventures you could experience because you're limited.
Well, I think you bring up an excellent point because that's another whole angle on disappointment. I'm not necessarily disappointed in my partner. I'm disappointed that we're never going to be able to do the things we had planned on doing. And, I hear this a lot when couples, one of them gets sick or one of them is, God forbid, got terminal cancer, and they have to say goodbye. And there was so much of this story that didn't get written. And I think you have to hide your disappointment if you're the one left behind, because you're trying to help this person move on because you're their best friend, and happiness and peace as much as you can.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I hear a lot from widowed people that, man, we had so much more of this story to write, and now here I am picking up the pieces instead of writing the story. That's legitimate disappointment.
Yes.
And I think grief and that whole process is probably a good topic for maybe our next podcast together. Not a happy one, but a necessary one. But let's go back to the couples who, we're in this. We've made a commitment to each other, but I was just, I don't know. I don't feel like I'm being so Pollyannish or so idealistic or unrealistic. I just really was hoping for more. Maybe the partner promised more and they're not delivering. You have a guy who said, honey, I'll always provide and protect. And, he goes out and gets drunk and leaves the family for 3 days, and he's, perpetually unemployed, refusing to go get a job. You could argue I haven't had a job for 20 years, but that's a little different. Somehow the bills get paid. But, that makes a woman feel less secure and less safe, and it makes her lose attraction because that's how femininity is wired.
Right? Or it could be that he's become, say from a guy's perspective, maybe he's become very, non-masculine. The world
Softened up on us.
Yes, where he doesn't speak up, someone, violates the family in some way or something. Maybe they cheated them out of some monies, and he's afraid to speak up and say, hey, you didn't really change the carburetor on that thing. Why are you charging me $400?
He's Mr. Nice Guy.
Exactly.
That's a huge disappointment to women.
Yeah. Or maybe the woman is lost her femininity and she's acting very, masculine and trying to take his, for lack of a better word, taking his balls away.
Well, taking his role from him.
Yes.
Like, hey, you know what? I got a better job. You stay at home with the kids. But honey, what about my career? I have ambition. I'm a man. No. This is just a season. The season turns into a decade and a half.
Mm.
Yeah, someone's going to be disappointed, probably the guy. And deep down, perhaps latently,
the woman.
The woman too. Yeah. I mean, can the stay-at-home dad thing work? I mean, we've seen it work.
Yeah.
But I really think there's a risk there because of how masculinity and femininity dance together, that there's going to be some disappointment.
I like how you put it. That is a risk. There's a risk there.
Yeah.
It can be successful, but you have to kind of ask yourself, the success rate is so low. Do we really want to risk that?
Yeah. I mean, you're risking trouble in your marriage. It's like, hey, honey, I finally went out and got a job. I'm managing a strip club. That would perhaps open us up, if that were the case, to a disappointing future because I'm putting myself in harm's way as far as this relationship's going.
Yeah, putting in jeopardy.
Yeah. So maybe being a stay-at-home dad is maybe not as visceral an example thereof, but an example nonetheless.
Well, temporarily that things do happen where guys do have to take over the role of taking care of the kids. Mom happens to be the one who has the job that's paying the bills, but to leave it in that status quo for decades,
I think
that's where, there has to be a goal. There has to be a plan to make things change there.
That's a good question. Does comfort lead to disappointment in a marriage? We're just kind of coasting?
Mm-hmm. In a rut.
In a rut, as opposed to being in heat. And we're going to have to spice this thing up. Now, people have stereotypical notions of spicing things up. We're going to change our sex positions and where we have sex and go on more dates, looking at me with those dreamy eyes. And yet an adventure is anything that takes you out of that comfort zone. It could be leaving your zip code and going on a hike, or doing something you've never done before that's just an outing and may not even be expensive. I remember one time you and I tried riding a bicycle built for two.
Oh, gosh.
That was an adventure.
It was
it worked,
a little
but
scary.
It's terrifying, yeah. So for you, it's a lot of trust being on the second seat of a bicycle built for two, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. People don't realize that. But that's just an example of something that's just not a huge undertaking, but can save a marriage because you're not going to be disappointed. You'll come home, you'll laugh together, and you'll have fun. And, to be completely honest with you, it seems to me fun and laughter are almost like a magical elixir to ward off disappointment.
Yes.
I mean, I don't want to be too naive. It can also be a Band-Aid to hide disappointment.
Well, yeah, it's a way to avoid it. Let's spice up the relationship in the bed or with adventures, but let's ignore the underlying problem.
Yeah.
Such as being able to share what problems might be existing in the relationship, such as, let's say, if the husband isn't supporting for whatever reason. Maybe he lost his job and now he's taking care of the kids and he's afraid to say anything to her, or maybe she's afraid to say, hey, whatever feelings might be coming from that. And so because they're afraid of hurting each other's feelings, they stay quiet. And that grows to be something bigger and bigger down the road, where if I'm going to be quiet about this, I'll be quiet about another issue. And if I'm quiet on that issue, I'm going to be quiet on a third issue.
Yeah, it kind of builds, it gets bottled up.
And then before you know it, you don't even know you had those issues, or you don't realize you've stopped talking and communicating, and then the disappointment really sets in hard.
Yeah, or else those disappointments have grown to such proportion that you can't bring them up, because it would be like uncorking that warm bottle of Diet Coke that you just shook up all those years. Yeah, the best time to talk about disappointments is when they're tiny disappointments. Hey, lately I've been disappointed in the fact that you don't keep the door closed when you use the bathroom. That's little. We can talk about that. But if it becomes this mountain of little pebbles that have mounted up over time, and finally,
when the big rock hits it,
right, everything comes uncorked, and it's like, here it is, I'm sick of your face, and then you're in divorce court, and then you say things that you can't unsay. That is why, if there's little disappointments, we have to get past that Pollyanna-ish, idealism, right?
Mm-hmm.
That drives a lot of young marriages or new marriages. And certainly people 50 years old or older can meet each other and go, oh my gosh, you're my soulmate I never had. Finally, I met you. And they can start making excuses for these disappointments because they don't want to bring them up. They want to pretend they're not there. They want to make everything perfect when it's never going to be. But meanwhile, if we actually express our disappointments, we actually become closer and more intimate, and we become more like best friends.
Right. And, and if you tell me your disappointments of, hey, I don't like it when you put the toothbrush next to the hairbrush. I'm making something up.
Well, you put the toothbrush on the hairbrush,
or next
or
to it.
use your hairbrush as a toothbrush.
There you go.
There's going to be some disappointment.
Let's go with that one.
Brush the dog's teeth with your husband's. Why are we laughing at that? Why would we laugh? Why would that example come up?
Let's go with it.
Yes, let's run with that one.
Because it could be, you could fill in the XYZ with whatever you want there. So I'll just make one up.
Okay.
We'll make it comedy.
Yes, we'll hum a few bars.
So let's say I brushed the dog's teeth with your toothbrush.
I know why you're laughing, because you can see it happening.
Yes. But I wouldn't, I promise.
Our kids are a little too old to get away with that, but they try.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, probably.
Y'all, we're at the gremlins have invaded our house stage with our two youngest. In other words, something blatant happened. Like all the lights were left on all night, or someone tried to use Discord on my work computer, or didn't flush the bathroom for the fourth time. And, the Family Circus, Bill Keane, we used to write comics about the Not Me gremlin.
Oh, yeah. There's a poem that's the Not Me.
Yeah,
Mr. Nobody.
Yeah, Mr. Nobody, the Not Me gremlin, has set up shop. I think he lives in the walls somewhere in this house, because boy, does he rule the place.
Anyway.
Not me. I didn't do it. I was like, oh, come on. Someone had to do it.
So to get to my point, so the things that, let's say for whatever that item or whatever that problem is that's bothering you.
Yeah.
I would much rather you tell me, hey, I appreciate all that you do, but, when you do this, it kind of bothers me. Could we possibly visit the idea of maybe not doing that? I may get upset, or I might, whatever my reaction might be to whether big or small this thing is, that's okay. I'd rather you be brave. Be brave about how my
Man up.
reaction's going to be.
Man up and disappoint me. Yeah.
And let me feel those emotions, and then we move forward and we fix it, or vice versa, and I think healthy couples can do that.
Well, I agree. And I think healthy couples start off building that habit, and they keep that habit fine-tuned over the course of their time together, over the course of a long-term relationship. And they teach that to their kids.
So I shouldn't be hiding those Amazon boxes?
Hiding the Amazon boxes? This is the first I've heard of that. Tell me more.
Well, if I tell you about it, you'd be upset.
I'd be disappointed. Why would I be disappointed in you hiding? I mean, you do collect egg cartons.
That would be spending money, right? No, but I mean like deliveries, when the Amazon people or the UPS truck keeps bringing box after box.
Oh, you mean you bring in things I've been waiting on for like 3 days off the front porch and throw them in the closet and forget to tell me they came? That would be majorly disappointing.
Like I go on a shopping spree, and to hide my shopping spree, I hide the boxes.
Well, all of the above that we've been talking about for about the past minute or so classifies as cruel and unusual abuse. That's not just mere disappointment. That means we need to go see a therapist. You can't be doing that.
There's jokes like that.
Oh, I know. They're not funny.
Yeah.
All right.
They are because I don't do it.
We've talked about how to, yeah, that's true. You don't do that. Everybody's pretty transparently waiting for the door and see what the mailman or the Amazon guy or the UPS guy brings today. Lots of fun. And about a third of it gets sent back anyway, especially your doggy stuff. But doggy stuff is like, nah, that isn't going to work. I keep waiting for Amazon to just pull our account and go, you people return too much.
You don't return.
You're not allowed to. They're disappointed. See, our relationship has disappointed Amazon, ladies and gentlemen, which is probably a good thing. We're sticking it to the man around here. All right. So far we've talked about what to do, how to be transparent, how to avoid turning minor disappointments into big dust-ups later on. And we've also talked about how to avoid a relationship where you're setting yourselves up to be disappointed.
Settling.
Yeah, right. Not settling. We talk about never ever settling around here. But what if someone's listening to this and they're there? They're in a relationship. The title of this caught their eye and it's like, all right, McKay's, now what? Here I am. How do you dig out of a disappointment ditch?
Well, that's a big one. So I would start first with remembering where it all started. The honeymoon stage. And I think that's the reason why we have honeymoon stages. So that when the rough times come, and I'm not saying if, they all do. Everyone has a rough time at some point in their marriage or relationship. But when those rough times comes, you need to go back and revisit mentally the happy days when you first met, the sparks, the butterflies that you had in your stomach.
The pictures, the videos.
Yeah. The wonderful moments you shared, what brought you together, what bonded you together. And start from there.
The clothes you used to wear, if you can still fit in them.
I'm laughing because
that's another whole level of disappointment there, But
I would start there and move forward. Okay, so where are we now, and how can we get back to that place? Because if you were happy, wonderful couple together,
yeah,
there's no reason why you can't get there. If you both decide together as a couple that you're still dedicated to making this work.
I really think that's excellent advice. And here's what's going on in my head relative to that. I think a lot of times life kind of grabs us and lulls us into an attitude change that isn't good for us.
And we start to think the other person's the enemy.
Right. Well, that would be a major disappointment. But somehow before we get there, if we can go revisit what it is that caused us to fall in love with each other. Yeah. And I mean, again, that sounds really idealistic and naive, but I also really, really hope nobody's listening to this who didn't even like each other when they got married. And I know those couples exist. I think there's a different podcast for you. I think that's beyond disappointment. I think that's a marriage made in hell. It should never have happened. But if you're someone who is married to someone else and the two of you
had sparks.
Yeah, you had sparks and things went really well. But now the 7-year itch happened. Maybe it came and went. You're kind of just going through the motions. You feel more like roommates than lovers. It might be really, really a special event to get out those pictures, to start going through those memories and fall in love again. It's almost like a second honeymoon without leaving the house.
And find out, okay, so all these wonderful things have been working great for us in the beginning. So where did it start to fall apart?
And you know what? If you feel better about each other because you've kind of stoked your emotions positively, even with nostalgia over the trips you've taken and the fun you've had, then I think it would soften both of you in the best way possible to be vulnerable in the good way, to talk about where you are right now, how you got there, and how you want to get out of it. I'm reminded of that awful song by Rupert Holmes called Escape that everybody else calls the Pina Colada song.
Oh, yes.
Because it's a song about him going out to cheat on his woman. And then when he meets the woman he's going to cheat with, it ends up being his own wife, who was also similarly
planning
on the cheating.
Yeah,
right. And then they collapse into each other's arms and go, oh, it's you. My goodness, that would be a major blowout if it happened in real life. It's like, you cheater. No, you cheater, like a Spider-Man.
You're going to leave me?
Right. But, the song, we're left to believe it's a happy ending, but I always couldn't stand that song. I think you need to deal with whatever is going on between the two people in that song and their relationship before it gets to the point where you're both, on Ashley Madison together.
Well, I think the reason why this song seems or feels like a warm, happy ending is because they got together and realized, hey, we're broken. But we still have that kindled relationship. We still have the sparks for each other.
I never
some
knew
common ground.
You liked pina coladas.
Right.
And getting caught in the rain. Right.
So
and that you're into champagne.
They're discovering that they both have a lot in common, that they still love each other, and that their relationship hasn't ended.
Yeah, nice try. The song still sucks.
The song sucks.
It's the most evil song of all time. There's nothing good about that song.
Take that without them leaving each other, and then you got a great...
Well, it shouldn't have gotten to that point to begin with. First of all, they never became best friends if they don't know anything about each other, right? And they're looking for someone they already have. Imagine the tragedy of that. I'm disappointed because I think the person I'm with is someone who they actually are, but I thought they weren't the whole time. I mean, how shallow is that? We've met couples who don't know anything about each other. They've been dating 6 months, 2 years.
Yeah.
One couple, 18 months, they didn't know each other's last name. True.
Yeah.
That's avoidance. That's two people hoping they don't find a red flag that would kill this blessed relationship that they need to have happen.
If he knows I want children, he'll leave. Or if he knows, or she knows that I'm not going to move to her city, she'll stop seeing me.
Right, exactly. But if we're honest with each other and we are vulnerable in the good way, have a little courage there to get to know each other.
And it takes a lot of courage, because when you speak up, you're running the risk of the person going, you know what? I quit.
Yes. No, there's real danger
scary.
there.
Yeah.
But the thing is, you're not setting yourself up for those big disappointments later anymore. Matter of fact, you're setting yourselves up to have a resilient relationship when those micro disappointments come up, because you are building that friendship. You are building that intimacy. And I think that's full circle. I think that brings this conversation to a good, positive end.
Well, I like that song to end differently. So the couple are disappointed with each other. Instead of writing an article in the newspaper that she wants to run off, she goes up to her lover and says, hey,
we need to talk.
I would like to run away and get my feet wet in the sand and have pina coladas. You want that? I do too.
Yeah,
Let's
but no
talk.
yoga. I ain't doing no yoga. Well, I'm not into yoga either. Really?
And then we have a happy ever after.
Exactly. All right. With that, we want to invite all of you watching or listening to join us at mountaintoppodcast.com. If you're one of the guys, get on my mailing list. You'll get a fluff-free newsletter just about every day on how to be a better man and get better with women. And if you're one of the ladies listening to this show, guess what? Just go to scotandemily.com and it will take you directly to the podcast now. And that's the X and Y on the Fly feed if you're listening to that. Emily and I would love to talk to you. Get on our calendar. 25 minutes is free. We can talk about whatever's going on in your life. You can give us feedback on the show. And if it makes sense to put a coaching program together, so be it. We want to hear from you.
We do.
Yeah. And until next time, my name is Scott McKay.
And I'm Emily McKay.
Be good out there.
And have fun.
Mountaintop Podcast is produced by X&Y Communications. All rights reserved worldwide. Be sure to visit www.mountaintoppodcast.com for show notes. And while you're there, sign up for the free X&Y Communications newsletter for men. This is Ed Roy Odom speaking for the Mountaintop Podcast.